Hi everyone, Charles from The Food People here. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. It's my great pleasure to welcome Alysha Darcy, founder of two fantastic hospitality concepts in Melbourne, Melbourne Public and Citizen. Alysha joins me today to talk about the recently founded Melbourne Public Group, an enterprise that, with the health of hospitality very much at its heart, it's uniting the industry in the wake of COVID-19 to shift the whole industry into a new era of business. So welcome, Alysha. It's great to have you here today from Melbourne to be part of the Food People's In Conversation With series. At the Food People, we're very clear about why we do what we do. We're champions of change, driven every day by our intent to shift the future of food and drink, in our case, by harnessing the power of trends. And in this In Conversation With series, it's all about talking to other people, businesses, brands, entrepreneurs, to find out more about why they do what they do, how in their way they're shifting the future of food and drink and championing change. Alysha, great to be speaking to you today. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks, Charles. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Establishing Melbourne Public Group was, I assume, inspired by your own experiences of running two hospitality concepts in Melbourne during the pandemic. So before we talk about Melbourne Public Group, can you just tell us a little bit about your experiences during and in the wake of COVID-19? What was it like? What did you experience yourself?
Yeah, sure. Well, I might actually take you back a little bit further than that to give a little bit more context on why health is part of our passion. And I actually grew up in pubs, so I was born literally into a pub with three other siblings, and watched my parents run pubs for my entire life. And I loved their absolute dedication and passion to hospitality, and that sense of warmth and looking after people and service was something that they were absolutely phenomenal at doing. But I also saw they were working 24-hour days. They were night and day. It was full on, and it was just the two of them running this operation. And eventually I kind of witnessed that it was taking a toll on their health. It was taking a toll on their relationship. And to be honest, I had no intention of following in their footsteps and getting into hospitality myself. I thought, no way, there's got to be easier ways of making money than doing that. So obviously life took a few different turns, and I did end up joining the family business eventually. And yeah, we've run quite a few really successful venues in Melbourne, the most recent being Melbourne Public and Citizen, which were going pre-pandemic. We're going well, by anyone's standards. We had a really loyal customer base. We built a really good brand. We were turning over quite a lot of sales. We just renovated Citizen, things were going well, but the industry itself was just becoming really, really tough in Australia. And we started noticing, the margin squeeze was creeping in. There's a cap on how much you can sell food and drink for, and the experience and what people are willing to pay for. But all of the expenses, the business, especially the cost of running the business, was just creeping up. And there was also in Melbourne, there was a huge focus on wage theft and wage issues, and lots of kind of little, not that that's a little issue, but these kind of like micro problems were popping up around the industry, and it kind of begged the question, well, what's going on for people to need to do that? Why are businesses in a position where they have to try and pay their staff less, or everyone was kind of feeling this squeeze. And then the pandemic hit, and obviously we had to shut our businesses immediately. And it just gave us, personally, it gave me a bit of time for reflection. Obviously, it was frightening financially, because you're throwing out stock and telling staff they don't have jobs, and standing people down. It was full on, but also a bit of a time to reflect and just look at how we got to where we are, and really have a deep think and a deep talk about what needed to change.
So based on your experience, I guess, and not just around the pandemic, but across the course of your life, really, in and around hospitality, and I'm sure there are many others that can empathize with those experiences. You set up Melbourne Public Group. Can you just bring to life what is it and why? Obviously there was a time of reflection for you, and I'm assuming some kind of light bulb moment. You thought, actually, there's a job to be done here. So can you kind of bring that to life for us a bit?
I guess Melbourne Public Group was born out of a need. We needed a parent company with purpose. And, you know, people know me and my family, you know, as the Darcy Group in Melbourne. But no one's really ever understood who we are personally. You know, people know that we've run pubs for years and years and years, but there's more to what we do and there's more to who we are than just that. So what we really wanted to do was set up a parent company that could facilitate these other ideas that we had and house these other ideas. And it was all about bringing purpose into what we do and showing people who we are and why we want to help the industry, really.
Okay. And I mean, you've touched on purpose there, and this is a key part of the In Conversation with series. So what is the Melbourne Purpose Public, and what is it, I guess, slightly more broader than that, what is it, where is it that you're going, what is it you're trying to do, and where is it you're trying to get to?
We really want to unite the industry and help the industry to shift into the new era of business. So I think in hospitality, we've always traditionally worked in silos. You know, you have relationships with some other operators, but traditionally we do our own thing and you create your own concept and your own brand and you really keep your intel to yourself. And we just saw that, you know, in crisis, people, you know, need to come together and collaborate. And the way through is by actually helping other people, not creating more boundaries and competition and, you know, how can we buy you out and how can we do this? That's always going to exist. But personally, I'd rather be on the side of helping people be successful than stealing their business out from under them.
And how has that resonated with industry? Because as you rightly say, and you know, I've worked in hospitality myself, and it's always, or you often think of other operators, their competitors. You know, those are the people you distance from. They're not necessarily the people you collaborate with. So it's a mindset shift for industry. How has that resonated thus far?
Yeah, phenomenally well, even from the big business point of view. So we wanted to break down those barriers of big business and small business. So in our podcast series, we're talking to, you know, the CEO of CUB and Lion Nathan and getting their view and their opinion. And surprisingly, they have so much to say on the health of the industry that they probably would never have an opportunity to before. Yeah, we found people really want to talk. They've got ideas, they've got suggestions, and they're really open to working with whoever and however to make hospitality successful moving forward.
When you talk about the health of hospitality, when you say health, what do you mean? Because I guess I'm assuming there's different dimensions to what health can mean.
Absolutely. Well, I think fundamentally, you know, the health of a business is its financial health. And we need business owners to be financially healthy so that they can continue to create, you know, more within the industry, and then they continue to give opportunities to other people coming up within the industry. So financially, you know, we need healthy businesses as a starting point. But we don't want healthy businesses at the sacrifice of our physical, emotional, and, you know, spiritual health. So there's got to be some balance, not only for the owner, but for the people working within the companies as well. So first and foremost, it's how do we get our businesses successful, and how do we do this in a way that can create opportunity for other people coming into the industry, whether that be staff or contractors, or, you know, it's such a huge network of suppliers that the hospitality engage with, and we want everyone to be fruitful and to thrive through that.
And how does the purpose manifest in the industry? So practically, and I think you've touched on something just a moment ago around kind of podcast, but that I'm really hugely inspired by that purpose. But how does that actually manifest itself for the industry? Practically, how will that purpose be delivered?
So we piloted a program, which I didn't actually mention to you, but we piloted a program during the pandemic, which was called Back to Your Local. And that was an initiative that we literally pulled together within a week, and it was supported by CUB. And it was all about how do we do something to help people in need. And we created a an event in every city in Australia, a music event that we had the maximum capacity of people that were allowed in the venue, yeah. And then we live streamed the gig or the music event online as well. So the feedback from publicans, or just the sheer like gratitude that someone was doing something that didn't cost them anything, that brought a few people in. It was a good news story, and we got a lot of PR and media coverage around that as well. Yeah. And it also served the need of the company supporting it as well. So, you know, it's initiatives like that we hope to continue on, and we're applying for some funding to do that again. Yeah. But, you know, that was just one way that we wanted to show, you know what, we can do something here. We can help other people. It wasn't about helping ourselves. It was about helping other publicans. So that went down really well. Secondary to that, we've obviously, started a podcast. So one of the really inspiring things for me personally is listening to people in the industry talk about the industry. Yeah. And you really get this sense of the passion and the dedication, and you know, people don't get into hospitality accidentally. It's either in their DNA or they've got such a strong passion for food and beverage that, you know, listening to them talk about it is really inspiring. So we've had some fantastic interviews which we plan on launching and rolling out this year, and we want to remind people why they're in it in the first place, because you can get really bogged down in it's hard work, why am I doing this? Absolutely. I know I've had that thought many times myself. But yeah, we want people to remember we've got such a creative force in hospitality. It's like pulling all of that together and coming up with ideas and solutions for moving forward in a really positive way. Yeah, can be so easily facilitated if someone creates the conversation. Yeah, so that's
definitely. I mean, you've answered my next question, which was actually going to be, how do you want people to feel? You know, they engage with the podcast. How do you want them to feel? But it's exactly that, isn't it? Reigniting that passion, those thoughts, those ideas, making those connections.
I've seen some operators and spoken to some operators who are so good at what they do and so phenomenal what they do, be absolutely just kicked to the ground during this time. Just really, you can see the emotion and the like, I don't think I can go on with this. And that for me has been a real emotional driver and sad to see, because you don't want to lose people like that. You know, you can't afford to lose people like that in the industry. And some people are reporting, you know, in March when the JobKeeper's finished and the government support stops, it could be up to 40% of hospitality businesses not come back in Melbourne, which would be a huge loss. So we just really want to get to people, keep them engaged, keep them involved and coming up with solutions. You know, we've got the best creative minds working in this industry, and together we can create some change.
You had your pilot project, starting the podcast series. What comes after that? What's could well fly.
So we're planning a summit where we want to use the help of the government, but also some of the industry bodies to actually pull together. Once we build the community, we'll get a bit of a sense of what do people need, and then we'll work out some projects from that. But I think there's some probably tax reform or, you know, some policy change that needs to happen to incentivize small business to start again. Yeah. I think we've become fairly disincentivized to run a small business. So there needs to be some incentives again. And then, you know, we're looking at online learning platforms, support systems. One of the issues that's come out of JobKeeper is staffing shortage. And I'm not sure if you've experiencing that in the UK, but there's all of the skilled people have moved into other industries, and so you're hiring people that, you know, you've got to train from scratch, and you've got to pay them a lot of money. You know, sometimes it's $40 an hour on a Sunday. There's some things there that really need to be addressed and looked at and discussed openly without, you know, media or people, you know, jumping down people's throats screaming that, you know, we're trying to steal people's income. But, you know, what's the practical solutions for the industry moving forward, and how do we get back up and running in a positive way?
Yeah, no, I mean, that sounds really, really exciting. Any support we can offer around running summits, do let me know.
I will.
And love to be part of that if you need anyone to speak on our topics, that's for sure. You mentioned a few moments ago that your family kind of has this kind of purpose and ethos at its heart anyway, and what you're doing is bringing that into a public space and to talk about that. And I've got a lot of empathy with that in the journey we've been on ourselves. What does it mean for you, I suppose, to run a business that has those values at its heart? How does that influence and affect how you work with people, work with suppliers, run your business, your teams, that kind of thing?
I would say it's the most fundamental thing for me to actually go to work with a purpose in mind. I feel, I've spent a lot of time doing jobs or, working for, kind of someone else's dream or someone else's thing. But, I've got a small child. I'm about to have a second one. And for me to leave them in childcare and go and work, I need to be connected to what I'm doing, and that's really what lights me up and drives me to continue doing what I'm doing. So purpose for me is now the most fundamental, essential ingredient for me to go out and create. Also, working with like-minded people. So about 6 years ago, really wanted to change the mindset in our business from culturally changing the mindset from it's party and drinking and more into an inclusive kind of how do we attract people who are aligned with who we are and who want more from their job than just, a business transaction, who want life help and support. And I taught 10 of our staff to meditate during the pandemic. So I'm trained in a type of meditation called transcendental meditation. So I ran a free course for our staff during the pandemic just to help with their mental well-being and get them through. So we offered that kind of support for the people who work for us as well. So it's of interest to me. It keeps me interested and passionate and fulfilling that side of what I do, whilst also staying within the industry.
I mean, as Charles, I want to be known for championing change and shifting the future of food and drink by harnessing the power of trends. What is it that you want to be known or, famous in inverted commas for? What is it what's that legacy, I guess?
Well, I guess the brand name and the legacy is transforming the health of hospitality. That really sums it up. It's helping people to have healthy businesses and healthy lives and lead happy and healthy lives really is essential to what I do and what I'm interested in.
And I think you've touched on it through some of the other questions, but why is that important? What do you care about
that? Well, I guess it's what I care for myself is leading a healthy and happy life. And it's something that has just driven me since I was really young. Since I was in my early 20s, I actually lived in London for a year, and I did a Tony Robbins seminar when I was there, and I must have been 23, and I walked over hot coals, and I remember thinking, I was like, why am I doing this? But it ended up being a really transformational event for me, and just set me on this path of not living a mediocre life, like not doing things without purpose or for the sake of it, but really engaging with living with the highest intention that I could possibly live with. And what can I create? What can I leave behind? Who can I help? And how can I do this in a way that serves me as well? And I guess the pandemic, if you're looking for a positive, that has helped me really connect with that side of myself.
Yeah.
So it's fundamental for me and who I am, but if it's something that I can share with other people or inspire other people to want to live that way as well, then that's, a life well lived, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's wow. There's a lot of negative energy around at the moment. What do we have to be positive about in and around hospitality at the moment, in your view?
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful question, and such a good focus. And when I was thinking about it, I was like, what is really positive is the power of people to create, adapt, and transform.
Yeah.
And listening, as I said before, listening to the people that we've interviewed in our podcast, there's so much inspiration out there and so much passion, and people power is what is going to come out of this pandemic as the transformational, event of our lifetime. And I think we'll come together, we'll get smarter at what we do, we're going to collaborate, we're going to help each other, and we're going to create something that is far better than what we ever strived for before, I feel.
Do you think the industry be as great as it was pre-COVID? I mean, is there even an opportunity for it to be better than it was before? I mean, what are your kind of hopes for the future?
I do see this as an opportunity to not wipe the slate clean, because there was a lot going right for hospitality beforehand, but there's a lot of opportunity for making things better for the business, for the staff, for the suppliers. And I think every industry is looking at how they can transform their industry in that way. Yes, I do see that there is an opportunity to create something much better out of this.
If you were to think forward, I don't know, 5 years, what would your hopes be? If you were there now and kind of looking back, where would you like to see the industry as a place?
I'd like to see, obviously, it thriving again, but I'd like to see people even from a consumer level understanding and appreciating what they're receiving when they go into a hospitality venue. I think there's a lack of awareness around what it takes to provide that service to people, and a lot of critiquing around food, and and I think this is the case for farming, and I'd like to see a greater appreciation from the people from consumers around the dedication, the effort, and what it takes to give that experience to people on a regular basis. And I'd also like to see more opportunity for staff to use hospitality as a long-term career as opposed to a short-term. I think we've got a real opportunity to create a space for people where they can thrive, rather than using it as a stopgap for another job.
No, exciting. What's next for Melbourne Public Group? What are the next couple of things that we can look forward to from you?
Well, launching the podcast will be the number one. So we've got to, let people know what we're doing and who we're talking to. And there's some really great conversations there that I would encourage you to tune into. We'll be working towards the summit, obviously, and really focusing in on what are some of the changes that we can make immediately, and what are some changes that we need to work on long term. And really, those two things are what we're focusing on this year. There are lots of other ideas in the pipeline, but given I'm about to give birth,
just got in there with our interview before.
There's a little halt in the proceedings, and we'll just see how much we can get done.
Brilliant. And when is the podcast series? When does that begin? When is it released?
To be determined. We're hoping for February, but again, we'll have to just see how we go. We've recorded 6 episodes, which platform we're going to launch it with, and potentially doing a deal with one of the podcast hosts in Melbourne. So and I'll let you know.
Yeah, do absolutely. We'll definitely support that in any way that we can. If anybody wants to find out more about what you're doing and the podcast series, what's the best way for them to do that?
Go to the website, melbournepublicgroup.com.au, or you can also come to melbournepublic.com.au, which is our venue site, and have a look at what we're doing there, and you can contact me through there too.
Brilliant stuff. Fantastic. Well, that concludes this episode of the Food People in Conversation with Alysha. I love your honesty and candidness. On behalf of us all at the Food People and the In Conversation with audience, thank you for joining me today. I know that you've inspired us all, given some hope, and demonstrate, I think, how positivity can come from this pandemic, from tragedy. I can definitely see that you're championing change and shifting the future of food and drink. It's a great pleasure to speak to you today. Thank you very much for having me. No worries.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So do join our TFP community for the details of our latest In Conversation with episodes, as well as the latest free to access food and drink trends foresight. Visit thefoodpeople.co.uk and complete your details at the footer of the page. On behalf of Alysha and myself, thanks for listening to the Food People in Conversation with. I just leave you, as always, with one question: how are you shifting the future of food and drink? Thanks for listening.